we now have a quorum, so we can start the public hearing for the comprehensive plan. I'm going to introduce the committee, and then Ed Downey is going to run the proceedings. We'll start at this end. John Cradell, John Midwood. This is going to be Debbie Middlebrook. I'm Edie Greenwood, Patty Lynch, Dale Culver, Ed Downey, and the three who couldn't join us today are Diane Engelke, Bill Kish, and Nini Ramos. Ed?
Thank you. I'm going to start out by reading the notice of public hearing. It's a small group, so I won't stand. I'll just read from here. And if anyone has trouble hearing me, please just raise your hand and shout. Notice of public hearing. Town of Northeast, Village of Millerton, Comprehensive Plan Committee. Please take notice that there will be a public hearing held before the Town of Northeast, Village of Millerton Comprehensive Plan Committee at the Northeast Millerton Library Annex, 28 Century Boulevard, Millerton, New York, on May 18, 2019 at 2 p.m. or as soon thereafter as possible. I just edited it. To hear public comments on receiving written public comments or receiving written public comments on the draft of the updated Northeast Millerton Comprehensive Plan as posted on the Town of Northeast and the Village of Millerton websites at www.townofnortheastnewyork.gov and www.villageofmillerton.net. A copy of the draft of the updated comprehensive plan is also available for inspection at the Town of Northeast Town Hall, 19 North Maple Avenue, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., Friday, 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. At the Village of Millerton Village Hall, 21 Dutchess Avenue, Monday, Thursday, 9 a.m. through 4 p.m., Friday, 9 a.m. to noon. And at the Northeast Millerton Library at 75 Main Street, Millerton, Tuesday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Written comments will be accepted until May 27, 2019, and can be sent to either the village clerk, P.O. Box 528, or the town clerk, P.O. Box 516, both in Millerton, New York 12546. All persons interested are invited to attend. Dated May 2nd, 2019. E. Greenwood, Comprehensive Plan Committee Chair. I want to thank all of you for coming and for signing in. I think everyone who's in the audience now has signed in. Since we've completed the reading of the public hearing, we'll proceed to the public comment portion of the hearing. On April 27th, 2019, we had our public meeting to present the plan and have a dialogue with those who attended. A public hearing is a more formal event intended to satisfy the requirements of the relevant municipal laws and to enable the committee to hear your comments. Those comments will be taken into consideration before the committee finalizes the plan at its next scheduled meeting on June 6, 2019. Each person who wishes to speak should come to the lectern and state his or her full name. Each person will be allowed to speak for up to 5 minutes. After each person has had an opportunity to speak, anyone who has previously spoken may speak again for 2 more minutes if they wish. In the interest of fully understanding a person's presentation, the committee does reserve the right to ask questions of the presenter. If anyone has written comments with them and wishes to summarize them and then submit them, that's fine. In fact, we would ask that anyone who has written comments to submit them. You need not speak if you have written comments and would prefer to just submit them, you may do so. And as I indicated, it was indicated in the notice of public hearing, written comments will continue to be accepted until Monday, May 27th, 2019, and should be filed with either the village or town clerk. When all who wish to speak have done so, the chair, Edie, will entertain a motion from a member of the committee to close the public hearing. So with that, I'll ask the first person to come up, introduce yourself to us, and share your thoughts with us.
Won't hesitate to take the opportunity. My name is Sam Lascelles, and I've been on the planning board for a long time, years ago. And I'm very interested now in the housing component of the comprehensive plan. As many of you know, we sponsored the Northeast Community Center and Hudson River Housing sponsored a workshop on April 12th to talk about the need for housing in the three towns of Amenia, Millerton, and Northeast and Pine Plains, and came up with some very interesting concepts, ideas, concerns about the need for housing, which is reflected, of course, in the comprehensive plan in the way of affordable housing, and kind of the right for people to be able to live in the town that they work in, and also in reputable housing that isn't overcrowded or doesn't meet code. So trying to look at that, and there was a general agreement that we're calling now the collaboration and cooperation with these three towns. We call ourselves the Tri-Town Coalition. And at the moment, it's just an informal group. There is representation, very good representation from all the towns. A subsequent meeting after the workshop, there were about 20 people there and representation from each town. And there is a genuine enthusiasm that this makes sense to be able to combine resources and ideas and thoughts and pressure, both for funding sources as well as just to generally raise the consciousness of the need for housing for every income level, if you will, all kinds of options for every income level. So one thing that I'm hoping to do by the time that the deadline comes in for publication would be to finalize the concept of the Tri-Town Coalition, as well as its goals, which are quite similar to the one that's stated in the housing chapter. And in going through the document, comprehensive plan document, I was trying to dovetail what we were thinking about generally with some of the suggestions and the format that would be compatible with the comprehensive plan. And I regret that I didn't get all it finalized, but I do have something to present to the committee now, and we'll formalize it. I'd like to talk to Bill Kish. He was not there at the last meeting on the 5th, nor at the workshop, but since he's so familiar with the zoning and with this document, that I would like to go through that with him sooner rather than later. And basically it's trying to clean up and make more sort of sequential what has been recommended. Where I find that many of the elements of the paragraphs and such have references such as prior to this, a housing committee would do such and such. It's just that I think that the wording and the location and the organization could be simplified. My suggestion is, in terms of the first here in the recommendations, establish a housing committee, and then the second is seek grants, and the third is encouraging working with Hudson River Housing, and the fourth, work with housing partners. There are a number of things that either have to do with implementation or concept or mission or whatever, and I think that they could be stated more succinctly and in the proper order. For example, the housing committee, establishing a housing committee, there are a number of things that are mentioned in the rest of the paragraphs that have to do with the housing committee, the role of the housing committee and how it might be formulated. So I would organize it by listing those pieces under that section. For example, evaluating and addressing the housing needs. These are all mentioned in the text. Inventory properties, that have potential to be readapted for housing, explored development, potential funding, identify priority projects, etc. So all of these things have to do with what the Housing Committee would be responsible for doing. And by establishing that and using this as kind of the text to address these in priority form would be useful.
We've reached 5 minutes. I wanted to see if do you have a written, are you working from a written set of comments? What I suggest you do is, if you want to continue with what your remarks are, we might wait until everyone is finished. You could take another 2 minutes, or you could submit those, and we may have some questions for you at that point too.
Yeah, I can't stay, so I can submit this and look forward to, unless anybody has any questions now.
Are there any questions anyone has that wanted to follow up? Thanks very much, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, and I look forward to spending more time on it now that there are deadlines that I can manage. Kathy told me about this meeting, which I'm totally blown away, so I did some of this just 2 hours ago.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person who'd like to speak, Ralph Fidel.
My name is Ralph Fideli. I've been a resident of the town of Northeast for the past 31 years. I'd like to say, first of all, that this is an absolutely amazing document. All of you did one hell of a job. Terrific. It's aspirational, as any comprehensive plan should be. It links the past. Many references go back to the 1990 comprehensive plan throughout the report. So it links the past, it describes the present, and it looks to the future. What I really enjoyed about this, it's like reading a great novel. You can't wait to turn the page. Really, it's excellent.
Are you saying it's fictional?
It's, but the fact is that there are action steps here and you can implement it. I've always been kind of critical of comprehensive plans, not ours, but of general comprehensive plans, because they're always aspirational. But then what happens 10 years from now? What has happened? And the beauty of this report, going through it page by page and then going to the appendix, you can implement this plan. You really can. And the beauty of Millerton, as I see it, you know, with the Irondale Schoolhouse and the project that we got involved with, you can take a few motivated people and get them together with a good plan, and you can do wonderful things. And that's what this plan is all about. So I'm very hopeful that this will be a plan that can be implemented. I do have to say, in all honesty, I was a little disappointed that the Irondale Schoolhouse, it got 2 references. One reference toward the very tail end of the report where it said, Friends of the Irondale Schoolhouse. It's one of the not-for-profits, so it's listed there, and it's complete. And then one part earlier in the report where we were talking about historical buildings and adaptive reuse. And to me, the Irondale Schoolhouse was the epitome of what historic buildings are and the adaptive reuse. So you did your job. Both are in there. The Irondale Schoolhouse is included, and the Friends of the Irondale Schoolhouse. But I think a little more attention should be placed with historical aspects of this village and the fact, the respecting of the past, of what a few people can do to save a little piece of history. One thing that I noticed is over the 31 years that I have been a resident, this town has changed dramatically. it's now a tourist destination, and I can attest to that. I was in the schoolhouse this morning, we were cleaning it up and getting it ready for its opening on the 25th. And I had 4 people come in and had wonderful conversations with people, tourists who have never been to Millerton before. So you can get to see what's happening to this village. It's changing dramatically. And this plan can help make it even better. So I just want to thank all of you for doing a terrific job. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you, Ralph. Well said.
Thank you.
Next person would like to speak. Laura.
I want to thank everybody for their effort. We're all getting older now. And I
If you could just state your name.
Oh, sorry, my name is Delora Brooks. This has been my home since 1969. You get nostalgic about history, and this isn't a tourist destination for me. This is where I'll be buried. This is where my family members are buried. And I see the future the way my dad would have seen it. And Kathy Fenn, years ago, that original plan in the 90s, the footprint for this current plan, always ringing in my head. And this plan that you've put forward, I haven't had a chance to finish reading it yet, but I'm gonna finish reading that fine novel tonight. I hope, with all the effort that you've gone forward with, that we are able to institute this plan, make it real, make it happen, because there's no more time. This is it for us, I think. I hope to God I'm around for the next comprehensive plan, and I hope to God that we have done your job as you so worked hard for. Every member at this table has a stake in this community. And I would hope that our dreams that are in that package become reality. Because if they don't, Millerton will never be a place we'll recognize going forward. I and others in this community will do whatever it takes if you ask. And it takes a village to build our future. And I get tearful because I get panicky and afraid that this is all gonna slip away. And that people that don't know us are gonna come in and decide what Millerton is, not what Millerton should be. I wanna thank you. This is a lot of volunteer time, and I don't think there's any amount of money that could have gone into this if you guys hadn't done this. When are we gonna start on the next comprehensive plan? Is it in 20 years? Can we keep up with this pace? We're gonna change. Once we get sewers, it's game over for us. And I would hope that you look forward to the younger people in our community. Mr. Midwood, you're of that generation. We're passing the torch to you. It's your turn. And we're going to hope that you can get others to step up to the plate. And I really want to thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, Tom Parrott.
Thank you. My name is Tom Parrott. My wife and I have been in the community since the early 80s, and we started voting here not long thereafter. And this has been our permanent residence for 20 years. And I'm here today to talk really about one very large subject, and I'm speaking as I'm professionally a science and nature journalist for national magazines, and so that's where this is coming from. And also my love for the place and the people here. And there are really two things that I'd just like to say in advance. One is that this wonderful comprehensive plan, and I echo what Ralph and others have said. You guys did a really terrific, thorough, thoughtful job. From the information gathering throughout the community, really right up to the present, being Edie was kind enough to spend some time speaking to me about some of my concerns. So very open, helpful process. And I think the community will be justly served by it, and they will see themselves reflected in this document for years to come, and that's wonderful. One thing is missing to my mind, and that's a focus on global warming, which is no longer a controversial thing. It's really scarcely mentioned. And I think that it ought to be reflected at the highest possible level in the document and referred to throughout. The second thing I'd like to mention is that I think the town, as others have been doing, really ought to state a very specific goal of when it might become carbon neutral. This is for town and village operations. Can't impose that on individuals, obviously, but in terms of everything from lighting to the operation of trucks and other kinds of vehicles. So if you don't mind, I'd just like to read this. It's roughly a page long, minus all my line spacing, and then I have a document that I'll leave with you, Ed, I guess. And I also have copies of this if anybody's interested. As I mentioned, global warming is scarcely mentioned in the new comprehensive plan, despite that it is a growing crisis, according to the vast majority of authorities, and the world's most formidable problem right now, because so little is being done to ameliorate it at any level. In fact, global warming and its effects will measurably impact many areas the plan addresses over the next 15 years. And over the next 30 years, the challenges will be profound. It's likely, for example, that growing crops by today's means in the town of Northeast will be impossible by the year 2050 due to a combination of higher temperatures, erratic rainfall, severe weather events, uncontrolled plant diseases, new insect pests, and much higher costs of operation. When the last plan was written, the CO2 concentration in the atmosphere was just over 350. It's now 412, and increasing at an accelerating rate every year. The 412 level, by the way, hasn't been seen on this planet in 3 million years. And in case that number is a little hard to get a hold of, this is about when apes started to walk on the planet, but well before the brain grew to human size. Its major manifestation for the area, which is likely to be increasingly unpredictable and severe weather, global warming will potentially wreak havoc on the town and the village. Downing trees and power lines, flooding streams, baking fields and crops, deepening winter's effects while abbreviating the actual season, stressing trees, plaguing us with invasive species. The imagination falters. Global warming, also known misleadingly as climate change, is a long-term built-in challenge. With its middle-term view and long-term implications, the comprehensive plan is a rare chance for our community to do what human beings rarely do well, plan far ahead. At its very least, the comprehensive plan's executive summary and vision statement should include global warming as a real threat that the town must confront and in detail assess in just about every area at every opportunity. Once in the comprehensive plan, it should reappear where appropriate. Just mentioning the highly laudable Climate Smart program, which I wish I was a bit more familiar with now and then, however, is not sufficient. What else? Beyond this being the thoughtful, responsible, and moral thing to do, it will make a difference in how the town is viewed. All sorts of people will ask, did the town see global warming coming or not? Did its officials take steps to minimize the effects of severe weather events or not? And they will say, I want to live or do business in a town that is ready to adapt to a changing world, not one that keeps getting caught by surprise.
Yeah, much more.
I'm almost finished. In view of the coming changes in a world that surrounds and infuses them, the town and village should adopt the best practices as they emerge and be among the leaders in staying ahead of the global warming curve. I strongly recommend that this goal should be stated repeatedly in the revised comprehensive plan. I also urge that the plan in our town and village governments to embrace the goal of becoming carbon neutral, as I mentioned, and I suggest 2040. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can you just submit those written
Yep.
materials? That'd be great.
Sure.
Anything you'd like to leave with us?
Anyone else like a copy? Yeah.
Did you email me?
That one?
Yeah, sure. It's the same, it's just a different format.
So this is the one. Thank you.
Yep.
Next person. Chris Cannon.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Cannon, and I'm a member of the town board of the town of Northeast. I would like to echo the remarks of others in thanking the committee for the long hours, which most of us will never appreciate, that you put into this report. Overall, I think the plan is a great document and will be enormously helpful to the town and the village as they move forward. I found the appendix both daunting and fascinating. So much information in there. There really, truly is. To dig in there, you can spend hours there. Reading it through, one can sense how many different issues were reviewed and addressed in a very open and transparent way. It's great that the committee found ways to engage with so many members of the community, and the fact that you all received over 300 responses to the survey should be noted and applauded. Responsibility for implementing many of the ideas and proposals and recommendations will soon move to the town and village boards. As a town board member, I look forward to helping make sure that the action items which are described get acted on. We all know how easy it can be to let things go, but I hope that the energy and the enthusiasm which the plan has generated will sustain us. In particular, the board should move quickly to form a comprehensive plan steering committee, or I should say the boards, to form the comprehensive plan steering committee that's mentioned in the report. While it's true that it can be hard to find enough volunteers for all of our various civic and governmental committees, this will be an especially important committee, and I'm sure if we all work hard enough, we can populate this committee with appropriate interested residents and stakeholders. I'd like to say a few words about economic development and economic vibrancy. The report notes the lack of population growth in the town and the village, the decreasing number of younger people, the increasing number of retirement age folks, coupled with the loss of retail stores providing affordable food, clothing, and other staples. This is a very concerning trend, both for us and for other towns like us, of which there are many. The priority which you assign to the construction of a public sewer system is so important, and I just want to underline that. It's one which I and many other people have been advocating for some time, and I feel it is one which now has a good head of steam behind it. An economic development committee may also be helpful, depending on how it's formed and who is on it. I feel it will be important for both the planning board and for the ZBA to be especially sensitive to the community's need for economic development in their work going forward. I feel this is something that could be given more emphasis in the report. I would also like to have seen some discussion of the desirability of growing the population of the village and the town. Having been in a business here, I can see firsthand the challenge of retail businesses in the low population density region. It is just harder in places like ours, and more people would help. Lastly, I would like to commend the plan for its work on including climate-smart recommendations. It is easy for people to think that my actions or my community's actions are so microscopic that it doesn't really matter what greenhouse gases we emit or the quality of our waterways. Sometimes we don't think about the resilience of our community to the effects of climate change. But many communities across New York State and across the country working in concert can make an impact. I'm really encouraged that both the village and the town are working on climate smart action items together, and that the comprehensive plan recognizes that. And I would just say, in response to Tom Barrett's comment, that the two action items that we have underway, one is assessing the quality of all our bridges and road stream crossings to the effects of greater water flow and measurement of greenhouse gases in all of the village and town buildings and vehicles is really an important first step in doing that. So, thank you.
Anyone else who'd like to share their thoughts with us? Last call for the first set of comments. Sam, do you want to finish up with 2 more minutes?
Sure. I should finish up with what I should have been saying at the beginning, which is you've done a fabulous job. And it's a readable and well-illustrated document. And I'm blown away by the amount of time it took and the seriousness it was taken, and also the product. So, and I really don't need to continue much further, except to ask any of you if you had any questions on it, or comments on the aspect that we're talking about in terms of housing. And suggest that there are a number of things that we can do to hook the housing needs into portions of the plan. For example, farming, and trying to make an overt sort of statement. It goes beyond just the right to farm, about housing for people who want to farm. And the same thing would be going with the people that vote, the undocumented, the Hispanic population that's here with inadequate housing, and the rights that anyone should have that works hard and raises a family should the rights to a proper place to live. So really I think that, as I mentioned before, raising the consciousness of that. It was mentioned in our meeting on the 12th of April. What about the invisible people? And this was brought up by the person who works at the Armenian clinic and the person who works very passionately with the people who are undocumented and here trying to struggle to make a living and live in proper conditions. And I would attribute that also in some ways to seniors who are trying to make it with the income that they have and fixed income, with rents going up, and houses that they can no longer or should no longer be in because they're so big and drafty and too large for their needs, as well as the farming community. So that would be, again, I think we need to develop that, and this comprehensive plan can kind of celebrate the need or reinforce the need and celebrate what we could be. The one other aspect would be the people who live here on weekends and summertime, the people of means, the people who treasure this area, to get them to commit sort of socially and financially to the needs of preserving this community, the rural character. I think that's a real challenge, but I think it's doable. If we raise the consciousness and get everybody to feel they have something to contribute. Thank you.
I had a question and from your initial remarks, and it may be what you submitted, but did I understand you correctly that you thought that the implementation steps that were outlined with respect to housing should need to be reorganized a bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you could share with us perhaps something in written form that would suggest a revision,
Right.
that would be great.
Yes, that covers, it starts off that, and the document that but again, I was rushed to get it,
I understand.
but no, I'd be very
if
happy
you
with
want
it, and
to
that's
do
why I
that.
thought that Bill would be useful to brainstorm with him in terms of the organization too.
But there is a time constraint, so if you could
I understand.
that, then we could then consider that.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else? I'll still go back and make sure that there's no one else who, well, I'll put it positive. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Just want to make sure.
Well, I will.
All right.
I wasn't going to, but anybody who knows me knows that. I just want to say thanks. Thanks. I can't tell you how I feel about thank you for not asking me to do it, to help with it. I know what it takes, and I just want to thank everybody, for the work that you did. I've only read parts of it, a couple of parts. I do tend to read the whole thing, but the fact that I'm involved in other things just limits my time, like everybody else, I'm sure. I do want to echo what Chris said about, the village has always been important to me. I always used to think it was the heart of the community, but it's not. It's a part of the community. The whole community, town and village, are the heart. The people that have been here. I've probably been here one of the longest. I don't know, Ed, you've been here longer than I have, but back in the 50s, I've been here since the 50s, so I've seen a lot of changes. And but I just wanted to say one thing. Through all my years on the planning board and town board, I've never seen such a change in the buildings as now, the important buildings. Saperstein's, where Duchess Auto was, who knows what's going to happen with Shirley's. The movie house, these buildings have been, they've identified our community for so long, and now they're changing. There's younger people moving in. There's a young guy who bought the little school, the elementary, I call it the little school. Saperstein's, the Duchess Auto. It absolutely warms my heart to see these young people come in and invest in our community. We haven't really had that in a while, and I would hope that we could all embrace them, work with them, to continue having younger people come in. Too many of us are, somebody here, I'm not going to mention it, said John Mead was probably the only young guy here. But it's great to see younger people invest in the community. But aside from that, I really want to thank you all for it. I know how hard you work, and I know what it takes to do that kind of work.
Thank you.
Oh, and Edie, you're a great leader. You're on, well, this morning planting flowers, townscape and so many other things. She's a whirlwind.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Does anyone on the committee have a question of any of the presenters? You may not have had an opportunity to, but it's one last opportunity in case anyone who made remarks that you want to ask a question just to get clarification of what they might have said and what their message to us was. All right. Turn it over to the chair.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Dale? Second. Debbie? Middlebrook? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Thank you all.
You need to motion